everyone, it is Tox with CritsHappen.com. I am back with NinjaZach and Mrs. Tox, and this is the second of our Crits Miss lists. Fan told us we should be calling it that, so I think we'll call it that for this week and next week. But we're basically here to talk about games that we are thinking about towards the holiday that could be good for gamers, good for families, and good for couples. So last week we went through, and do you remember the games we did last week?
Yep, I did. Boss Monster.
Very good. And what did I do? Do you remember mine?
Mage Wars.
Right, and what was Mommy's?
Legendary.
Very good. That's not bad. Slight pause at the beginning, but not bad. Okay, so you want to do the same order? You want me to do mine first?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So last week talked to you about Mage Wars being a gamer's game. This week I'm going to talk to you about Descent 2.0 Journeys in the Dark. Descent is a dungeon delving game, and it is the daddy, granddaddy, father, whatever you want to call it, of them all, in my opinion. There are a lot of different games out there that are dungeon delving games, even going all the way back to like Hero Quest and some of the original ones like that. Most recently, Descent and the Dungeons & Dragons board games try to give you that feeling of being an adventurer in a different class, delving into a dungeon, and trying to have some type of giant scheme to overcome or giant plot to overcome. In this one, you actually are playing as a group of heroes against another player who plays the Overlord. So it's almost like a one-on-one or a one-on-many scenario, because you can have anywhere from 1 to 4 adventurers, and then you only have one Overlord. I can tell you from great experience, playing the Overlord is really challenging when you have a lot of other heroes in the group. They're all talking, trying to figure everything out, and you're trying to just enact your dastardly plans. But it is a phenomenal game. It's from Fantasy Flight Games. It has a ton of beautiful miniatures that are unpainted, so if you like painting minis, it's a great investment to be able to get those to paint them. There are modular boards, so you can change and do the scenarios that are existing, or you can make up your own. And there's even an online community where you can actually download scenarios that people have made. The support for this game is phenomenal. There's already several expansions out that introduce new heroes, new cards, new equipment, the whole 9 yards. And in my opinion, from a gamer's perspective, the thing that I like about this is it's one of the few games that actually really gives you a rewarding experience for leveling your character. So as you achieve either wins or losses against the Overlord, you get to level your characters, and it gives you really good progression both from equipment that you can get and abilities you're going to have later on throughout the scenarios and the adventures. And it also does that for the Overlord, because the Overlord is going to get to upgrade their capabilities as well. So no matter which side of the fence you play on, it's a lot of fun. So whether you like being the evil puppet master and being the Overlord, you like the evil puppet master? or I think you just like being bad guys all the time.
Or the Overlordess.
Or the Overlordess, yes. But if you like that kind of play, it's available to you. If you like hero type play and banding together, that's available to you. And in my opinion, of all the dungeon delvers that's on the market right now, this is the most rewarding experience. So my pick, if again it's Christmas or other holidays we may be celebrating and I wanted a gift as a gamer, I would want Descent. All right, let's move over to NinjaZach. Now, once again, we have nice little high-tech special effects. They can't see what game you have in front of you right now. So before we talk about what your game is, last week you did Boss Monster, right?
Yep.
And you liked Boss Monster because of all the different rooms, all the different characters, the fun things we could do as a family, the fun things you could do as your friends. What is your game this week?
Maximum Throwdown!
Maximum Throwdown. Let's pull it back here so everyone can see the box a little bit. We'll put a little bit of art overlay on this. So this is from AEG, Alderac Entertainment Group, and it is a very small game, as you can see. It is all based around cards, and what do we do in this game?
First, you have to decide whoever goes first, but you have to yell Maximum Throwdown really loud.
That's right, yeah. One of the more fun rules of this game is when you're deciding who goes first, you have to yell as loud as you can, Maximum Throwdown. Which can just by itself be a fun game, right? We've had many nights yelling this. So, but what do you actually do in the game? Once you determine who goes first, let's say you yelled Maximum Throwdown louder than me. What is the whole point? What are we trying to do?
then you like try to throw cards at the home bases.
That's right. There's all these bases that get put out, and you have a deck of cards, and each deck has different strengths, and you're trying to throw those cards face up where there's symbols, and you get different things for the symbols, right? Sometimes you get points, sometimes you get abilities, sometimes you get to do what? You get to steal, right? And what happens when you steal cards?
You can throw it at something, or you can go like this.
Right over your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
There's ways in the game that you can steal cards from other players, and it can be as crazy and as wild and funny as you want. So you just throw it over your shoulder if you want, because only the cards that are touching the bases and touching each other are the ones that are in play. So if I throw one clear off to the other side of the room, it's not going to be in play. And it's kind of fun to just say, I'm stealing that and I'm throwing it away, right?
Yeah.
This is not a game you're going to sleeve. In fact, this is a game that your cards are probably going to get beat up pretty well. But the good thing is they're a really good, high-quality card stock. Now, this is also fun for you because, like, you could play it with Wyatt, right? You could play it with your little brother. You could play it with me and Mommy. You could play it with your friends. You could play it with Grandpa, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are because all you're doing is throwing cards, right?
Yeah, and yelling.
And yelling. So as long as you have a voice, and as long as you have at least 2 fingers to hold a card, throw a card, this could be pretty fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different strategies you can employ. It can be as light or as heavy as you want, really, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what is your favorite character in the game? There's
the dragons.
The dragons, okay. The cool thing about this is that there's different characters pulled from the AEG universe. So you'll have people from Legend of the Five Rings, from Smash Up, different things like that. I actually like the aliens, I think. They're pretty fun too. So yep. Aliens versus Dragons sounds like Smash Up by itself. Dragons, hint AEG, could be a good race for Smash Up. So you think if you're a kid and you want to have some fun throwing cards with your family or with your friends, you think you'd like to get Maximum Throwdown?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Okay, all right. All right, so now we move on to Mrs. Tox and couples games. So last week, Mommy did what? She did Legendary, right?
Yep. Yeah,
and we like Legendary. I mean, whether we're playing as a family or as Mommy and I play as a couple. But this one may surprise some people. This is a much thicker, deeper game. So what did you pick as your second game?
I chose Archipelago.
So anyone who doesn't know, Archipelago is a worker placement game. And it's kind of expansion. You start in a small little area and you're building out and finding tiles and discovering new resources. And we have a lot of fun with this. I mean, what's some of the things that you like about Archipelago? I mean, this is kind of like other worker placement games, but kind of not.
I was kind of resistant when I first started learning this. It seemed so complicated. There were so many pieces to set out. But as we started it, I think we played one of the shorter games at first. Mm-hmm. And as I slowly started learning the different aspects of the game, I kind of fell in love with it. There's a lot going on with exploring. You got to kind of make sure that your island fits with everything else. And so there's a little puzzle aspect there. Managing your workers and the market. There's a lot of pieces involved. But as you know, I don't know a woman out there who doesn't know how to juggle home, family, and work, and all the responsibilities of that. So definitely multitasking with it.
And one of the really unique things about this game is when you, like she had mentioned, you can do a short, a medium, or a long game. So you can make it, if you wanted to play a 30-minute game, you could play a 30-minute game. Right. If you want to play a 3-hour game, you could play a 3-hour game. But there are cards that you get at the beginning that will tell you what certain endgame triggers will be, and then what you will score points off of at the end of the game. And they don't always equal out. For example, a endgame trigger on one of my cards could be if we have 3 churches built. But I may only get victory points once that happens based on whoever has the most fruit or something like that. They're not always going to be one-to-one. But when we play like as a couple, Mrs. Tox is only going to have a certain number of cards that tell her what are going to be scored at the end, and I'm only going to have a certain number of cards that tell me what's going to be scored at the end. So we only know about half the whole puzzle, right?
Right. We never know what's gonna trigger that end game, and so it's kind of like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, but then oh, game's over with. So it's always kind of a surprise. It's never the same game twice. we have to cooperatively work together. You can't let the rebellion overtake you, so we have to work cooperatively, but then yet we're kind of competing against each other on who's going to end up with the most victory points at the end. So I also kind of look at this as like a modern day kind of poker game. I have to know kind of like but based on what you're doing, what your strategies are, kind of figure out what he's doing and how I have to manage my pieces to kind of beat him to what his goals might be. And, you know, if he's lying to me, if I ask him a question about what he's doing. So it's, you know, it's knowing your opponents and who you're playing against and managing that. And to me, that's a lot of fun. It
sounds a little random the way we're describing it. It's really, there's randomness in terms of the exploration piece of this. Right. We've had games where I've ended up on islands with nothing but stone and had to manage the strategy around that. But I like that. I think from a couple's perspective, I think what you hit on around it being cooperative and competitive is really good, because there's an aspect in the game where as we explore, we grow the population of the archipelago. But as you can imagine, just landing on an island doesn't make the inhabitants that are already there very happy. So there's a potential for a rebellion to happen. So together we have to work to make sure that everyone in the archipelago is happy. But at the same time, we kind of have to work against each other to deal with those endgame goals and get the most points. So very much like Legendary, how we're working cooperatively to beat a boss, but competitively to get points. It's the same thing here. Instead of only the boss, we're managing the population versus the rebellion.
Right.
So it is definitely a thicker game. I would highly recommend this not to be the first couples game that you start with. But as a couples game, I actually do really enjoy Archipelago as a two-player game myself as well. So I think that's cool. Awesome. So this is week 2. We have one more week to go. We may have a game next week that is probably just about to go on sale. So it may hit perfect around the holidays. And then we'll see what we come up with, right? We have one more family and kids game. I think I know what you're going to choose already. Don't tell anyone. We'll keep it a surprise, because it may be a very big box. Yeah. And then I'll have one more gamers game, and Mrs. Tox will have one more couples game. We'll see how it goes. But as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Descent as a gamers game, Maximum Throwdown as a family game, and Archipelago as a couples game? Let us know and leave your comments below in the YouTube channel. You can, of course, join in the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen, or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, thank you so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice.
We hope they're all crits.
Right on.